Welcome to Suribachi Airfield. Please mind the mortars. The official briefing had described Iwo Jima as a strategically vital, moderately sized rock, suitable for air transport infrastructure. Captain Arthur Jenkins, USMC Supply Corps, glanced at the 554-foot volcano towering over him and revised that description. An actively malevolent pile of aggressively non-load-bearing volcanic powder, strategically optimized for disappointment. It was 10:30, February 19, 1945. Less than an hour after the first wave had waded ashore. Captain Jenkins was, strictly speaking, not a combat marine. He was a logistics officer, an architect of supply lines. He was a man whose greatest enemy pre-war had been improper invoicing. He had landed on the eastern beach. His sole purpose was assessing the feasibility of turning Airfield number 1 into a functioning emergency strip for the B-29s. Currently, he was chest down, clutching a clipboard and a portable SCR-300 radio, submerged halfway into the legendary black volcanic ash. It wasn't sand. It was heavy, abrasive, and behaved with the structural integrity of quick-drying cocoa powder. "Report!" screamed a nearby lieutenant, whose helmet was tilted at an impressive 45-degree angle. "Captain Jenkins, sir. Logistical assessment. Terrain integrity is 0. We can't get the dozers past the tide line." Jenkins yelled back, trying to sound professional while a machine gun round kicked up dust a foot from his ear. The lieutenant squinted. "We are kind of busy right now, Captain. The enemy just remembered they had guns." Indeed, the eerie, beautiful silence that had greeted the initial landings, a silence many Marines had fatally interpreted as success. This silence had ended precisely on schedule. Lieutenant General Kuribayashi's plan was brilliant and terrifying. Let the Americans crowd the beach, then unleash hell. Jenkins, meanwhile, was focused on the immediate operational hurdle. His primary concern was a 6x6 truck, designated for runway surveying, which was currently sunk to its axles about 20 feet away, its wheels spinning futilely in the black sludge. "This is unacceptable," Jenkins muttered, pulling a field manual from his pack. Chapter 3, Section A, Subsection 4. Landing zones shall possess a minimum bearing capacity of 1,200 pounds per square inch. This whole island is violating the Geneva Convention on Structural Engineering. A mortar round landed 50 yards to the left. This momentarily silencing the chaos. Jenkins finally got his radio working, static spitting aggressively. He needed to get through to the USS El Dorado, where Fleet Admiral Nimitz's staff was anxiously awaiting confirmation of the runway status. "Cactus Base. Cactus Base. This is Supply Echo 1. Do you read over?" A crisp, unnervingly calm voice crackled back. "Supply Echo 1, reading you 5x5. Report on Airfield 1 assessment. Can we expect light bomber traffic by D+3? Over." Jenkins stared at the landscape, a mix of dismembered landing craft, sinking jeeps and screaming, pinned-down Marines, and fought the urge to simply hang up and run into the sea. "Negative, Cactus Base. Repeat, negative. Airfield 1 is currently unsuitable for anything heavier than a moderately packed suitcase. The terrain stability issue is critical. We are experiencing what appears to be an active refusal by the island. It refuses to support any form of heavy machinery. It is absorbing our vehicles like a particularly stubborn sponge. Echo 1, this is an unacceptable assessment. The intelligence reports indicated suitable volcanic soil." The voice snapped, laced with Ivy League disappointment. "Sir, with all due respect, the intelligence reports were written. They were written by someone who never met this volcano. This is not soil. This is industrial-grade misery. We'll need substantially more matting, and at least 3 additional CB battalions dedicated solely to keeping our existing dozers. We need them to keep the dozers from disappearing into the mantle. Acknowledge. Proceed inland and secure the central maintenance hangars. Report back in 2 hours. Jenkins sighed, slung the radio, and began the arduous process of waiting. He felt less like a Marine invading an enemy stronghold, and more like a postman delivering bad news through a vat of wet cement. Meanwhile, a mile and a half inland, deep beneath the black surface, Colonel Kaito was reviewing the day's performance metrics. Kaito was not concerned with winning the battle. General Kuribayashi had made it clear that victory meant simply maximizing. Victory meant maximizing the number of inconvenient deaths. Kaito's personal contribution was focusing on logistical disruption. He stood in a vast, dry bunker carved into the solidified lava, a cavern capable of housing 2 entire companies. The air was cool, the silence broken only by the muffled, distant concussion of American naval shells. Kaito held a small, precisely sharpened pencil over a detailed map of Airfield number 1. Reports on targeting, he asked, his voice quiet and scholarly. A junior officer bowed deeply. Excellent, Colonel. We have inflicted severe damage on the 4th Marine Division's artillery spotters, and the mortar teams have executed. They have executed the secondary objective flawlessly. The secondary objective being targeting any vehicle or structure displaying the label Caterpillar, engineering or surveying equipment. We have noted a 40% casualty rate among personnel wearing oversized glasses and carrying clipboards. Kaito smiled, a small clinical curve of the lips. Outstanding. We are not just killing them, Lieutenant. We are delaying their quarterly reports. We are causing paperwork. If they cannot land a bomber, they cannot win the war. And if we can delay their construction of a runway for just 1 week, that is 168 hours of administrative headaches. These headaches are for Admiral Nimitz. Kaito pointed to a specific point beneath the northern section of the airfield. This was a deep, heavily reinforced concrete casemate. We will reposition the 2 Type 92 heavy machine guns here. When the Americans attempt to clear the runway, they will find that position exceptionally difficult to dislodge. This will create a necessary 50-yard bypass, which will, in turn, delay the application of steel matting. It will be delayed by approximately 36 hours. Understood, Colonel. Maximize inconvenience, the lieutenant affirmed with fervor. Precisely. Now, confirm the status of the tunnel entrances beneath the number 3 hangar. I want a squad rotation every 4 hours. We must ensure the Americans think the area is cleared, only to have a fresh squad emerge to resume small arms fire precisely 20 minutes after the previous occupants. After they have been cremated by a flamethrower, the Guacamole Protocol is paramount to maintaining American morale instability. Back on the surface, Jenkins was enduring the Guacamole Protocol. It was late afternoon on February 20th. He was now operating near the center of Airfield number 1. The Marines had technically secured the area. This was only in the sense that they had momentarily silenced the occupants of the pillboxes. Jenkins knelt beside a bearded CB sergeant named Miller, who was staring hopelessly at a section of ground. This ground had just been hit by a flamethrower team. The ground was steaming, smelling faintly of charcoal and failure. Okay, Miller, Jenkins said, consulting his survey map, which was damp with sweat and slightly scorched. I need you to confirm, this section of the runway, does it meet minimum compaction standards? Miller spat black ash. Captain, I built airfields on Guadalcanal with my hands tied. This ain't an airfield. This is a culinary experiment gone wrong. You pour concrete on this, the concrete sinks. You drive a Jeep on it, the Jeep sinks. I watched 3 guys try to dig a foxhole this morning, and the ash just flowed back in. They weren't digging a hole, Captain. They were stirring soup. Jenkins tapped his pen on the map. We must find the hardpan. There has to be bedrock somewhere. Yeah, about 3,000 feet down. Right next to the magma. Just then, a previously silenced section of trenches near the burned-out hangar erupted in renewed machine gun fire. Miller ducked. See, they came back. You clear them out. They take the express elevator from the sublevel, and they are back online. It's less a battle, Captain, and more a very violent round of hide-and-seek. Jenkins pulled out a set of geological testing rods. I'm going to attempt a quick probe core sample. Cover me.
Cover you, sir. Are you really going to try and take a dirt sample while being actively shot at by the undead?
Miller asked this incredulously. If I don't confirm the substrate structure, Nimitz will send me a strongly worded telex. I can handle bullets, Miller. I cannot handle administrative censure. Jenkins dashed forward, slammed the first metal rod. He slammed it into the ground and was immediately rewarded when the rod sank effortlessly into the ash up to its handle. He pulled it out. The tip was covered in fine, oily black powder. Negative hard pan. He yelled over the din of battle. No structural integrity detected. The Japanese fire intensified, clearly aiming at the strange man with the metal stick. Jenkins retreated back to Miller. "I'm sending another report," Jenkins decided, grabbing his radio. "We need to inform High Command that the landing strip will require complete paving, essentially building a whole new island. Building it on top of this one, the fighting was brutal. Days bled into weeks. The 4th Marine Division was being chewed up. They were in the meat grinder to the north, and the 5th Division was making agonizing, house-by-house progress. This progress was across the Central Highlands. Jenkins spent the next 3 days assisting Seabees in the Sisyphean task. They were trying to tow vehicles that had sunk into the island's floor. By February 23rd, the focus shifted dramatically. The 28th Marine Regiment of the 5th Division had managed to isolate the massive Mount Suribachi volcano. Jenkins found himself stationed near the western beach, observing the slow, upward crawl of the assault squads. The fighting was still intense across the island's waste, but all eyes were on the looming, dormant beast. He managed to get through to the El Dorado again. Supply Echo 1 reporting. Airfield status is D-. We have pushed the Japanese out of the surface structures, but the subterranean network is complicating everything. We can't establish a secure perimeter long enough to lay down perforated matting without the risk of immediate counter-infiltration. Echo 1, hold that thought. The voice from the El Dorado interrupted, thick with emotion. Stand by for observation. We have visual confirmation of the ascent. Jenkins lowered the radio and looked up. Suribachi was still shrouded in smoke, but he could see figures moving near the summit. He heard distant cheering from the Marines fighting nearby. This was a sound that was foreign to this bloody island. Then, at 10:35, he saw it. A small piece of red, white, and blue material unfurl against the gray sky. Old Glory. A roar erupted around him. Men wept. Men shouted. Men stood up, ignoring the still active snipers on the northern ridge. The high brass had predicted 3 days. This was the 4th. It was a moment of transcendent triumph. It was a victory symbol broadcast across the entire Pacific. Jenkins felt a genuine, if brief, surge of pride. Cactus Base, confirm visual. The flag is flying. Suribachi is secure. Confirmed. Echo 1. Mission objective Suribachi achieved. This is a tremendous victory. The end is in sight. Jenkins took a deep breath, letting the euphoria wash over him for a full 5 seconds. The Marines had done it. They had taken the high ground then. Jenkins remembered the technical briefing he'd received 3 days ago. He remembered the schematics of Kuribayashi's plan, showing the layered defenses and the sheer magnitude of the underground construction. He remembered the number, 19,000 yards of interconnected tunnels. He remembered Colonel Kaito's network. It was running beneath the very ground they stood on, and running straight through the base of Suribachi itself. While the Marines had been fighting up the slopes, most of the garrison had simply been waiting in the basement. The victory felt suddenly very provisional. Jenkins raised the radio again, the celebratory shouts of his comrades fading. They faded into a dull administrative dread.
Cactus Base. A final clarification on the secured status of Suribachi. Yes, Echo 1. Bask in the glory. Sir, are we operating under the assumption that securing the mountain? Does securing it mean securing the vertical structure, or securing the entire three-dimensional volume, including the vast multi-level reinforced subterranean parking garage underneath it? Because if we only have the peak, we still have to figure out how to drive heavy road grading equipment. To drive it through the equivalent of a fully functional subway system, inhabited by 10,000 extremely agitated Japanese soldiers. There was a long silence on the radio. Echo 1, focus on the airfields. The Army will deal with the basement. The voice finally said, sounding slightly hysterical. Understood, Cactus Base. Jenkins replied, dropping the radio onto the ash. He looked north toward Airfield number 2, where the main Japanese defense was now solidifying. It was going to be a long month, and based on his geological samples, the first B-29 to land here was probably going to need a snorkel. Jenkins pulled out his clipboard and began scribbling a memo. Priority request: 50,000 tons of high-grade asphalt. Also, please send more clipboards. The flag waved proudly on the peak of Suribachi, a beacon of triumph above the island. Yet, deep beneath the surface, Colonel Kaito merely adjusted his spectacles, reviewed the detailed evacuation routes. He reviewed the routes from the mountain's core and smiled. Excellent timing, Kaito murmured to his aide. The Americans have successfully captured the rooftop. Now we may proceed with the rest of the battle.